This is Joshua Taylor coming to you in this part 3. It's 12:33, Wednesday the 20th, 2019. And in the first two videos, I've been kind of setting a precedence, a stage about the coming revival and how we need to prepare our hearts through learning to love one another. I remember one time when the Lord first came and saved me, and I ended up in Edmonton about the early part of January 1975, and I met the Lord drew me by His Spirit there, by circumstance too, and I met people that were I met this one guy that he is with the children of God at the time, and I forget his name. It's been so many years. But a week after, we met another brother who was from Chicago, and the three of us hung out. We prayed together, showered together, ate together. We spent all our time together, like Peter, James, and John. Memorized scriptures. After a while, you got to know hundreds of scriptures. But we had a love one for another, and I've never seen this repeated since then, except for Johnny, when I met Johnny here 5 months ago, or last summer. And I'm at the Coquihalla campground here, and my time is coming to an end. But I met Johnny last year. I actually met him a year ago when I was in Boston Bar, and I was taking my dog for a walk, and he's out taking his dog for a walk, and we crossed paths, and he said, he introduced himself, and he says, "What's your name?" I said, my name is Joshua." I says, "Oh, Joshua," like he knew me from somewhere, maybe from some time, and I believe that he had, back in pre-time before we came to the earth, right, for a mission. And anyway, we got to be the best buddies through thick and thin. We had a love for one another that I've had and have had since back in 1975. I've got to know other people, brothers and sisters that I had a relationship, a friendship with, but not like this. It was like a David and Jonathan kind of thing, very special. And like we're best buds, right? But anyway, this revival that's coming, that God is going to separate a people. There's going to be a move, and God's going to reach out to the people on the street, and they probably qualify the most for this move. Because if you live on the street, you hang out together, but it's kind of divided. But people on the street, they have love one for another. They got more love one for another, the people on the street, than the people in the church, for the most part. For the most part, the people in the church become religious. They don't see it. And but being on the streets, being in the different Salvation Armies and things like that, you get to know each other, right? And you help each other out as much as you can. Not always. Not all the people are like that. But the people that are in the streets, they're the ones that's going to qualify, where God's going to pour out His love on them, because they know what it is to love one another as your neighbor. Some in the churches, they'll be given a chance, But if we don't have that love in our heart, or we're not manifesting and shedding the love of Christ to one another, God's not going to pour out His end-time Spirit on us, right? He's not going to do it, because He won't be able to contain it. The reason that Jesus says to love one another, even as you love yourself, right? It's to prepare your heart for the greater outpouring of the Father's love. And those who qualify, they're going to be given a double portion. They're going to be walking in the kingdom of God. They can be manifest. They will be the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God will be manifest in their life. The kingdom of God is not coming to Jesus, right? The kingdom of God is the narrow gate that leads into the kingdom of God, the resting place, to learn to abide in the Father's love. So there's going to be a people that's going to learn to abide in the Father's love, and they're going to have a double portion. And in the times you're coming into, like the church is not going anywhere. There's great persecution coming, right? We're a couple years away from the rise of the Antichrist coming to power, the final 7-year period. The Father has granted a reprieve. We should have been there now, but He's given us a time to get our act together, to raise up the bride, so the bride can come into the full number, and also the fullness of faith, right? And into love. Because there's one thing that, when we get to heaven, there's one thing that God's going to ask us. Did you learn to love? Did you learn to love? Right? That's all. It's not about the works that we did. The works of faith. Did you learn to love? Simple as that. Did you learn to love your neighbor as yourself as best as you know how? That you're able to. Whether it's physical, whether it's a prayer, or whatever. Well, there's coming a time as we go further into Revelations. We're already into Revelations now with the 5 ways of energy. Pastor Paul Bigley. You need to check him out. You need to listen to what Mike from around the world has to say about this cosmic energy that's hitting the earth and bringing in the end time signs. Everything is speeding up. These 5 ways of energy are speeding up. The signs of Revelation. We're already being affected by wormwood, and the churches are asleep to it. And the government's hiding it. But anyway, you know, as we press on into time, chaos will ensue. And there'll be one point, a time, where the cities, the lights in the cities are going to go out, and they're never going to be turned on again. There will be an EMP or a CME that's going to take out the power grid, and it's going to be permanent. It's not going to come back on. And so God's preparing a people. You know, you're going to have the 3 classifications of Christians. You have those who are going to be are going to perish. You got the perishing ones. You get another classification. The ones that are going to be I'm just tired. Persecuted. The martyrs. That's coming. And you're going to have those that are going to be preserved until Jesus comes. And that's those who have come to a place of love where they learn to walk in the manifested love of God. That the devil, Satan, will not be able to touch them until their ministry is done. They're going to have the walk of Jesus. That they're going to have. They're going to be manifested sons and daughters. The church, you better wake up. You better realize what time it is. What God's about to do in this hour. Because you don't know. You're too busy doing your own lives and doing your own thing. You know, not watching the signs, not being aware of the seriousness of the times. So God's going to allow chaos to come, to wake us up. And there will be a people that God's going to preserve through places of refuge. The cities across the nation are going to go into darkness after President Donald Trump is out of office. Whenever that is. You're going to see darkness sweep over this land. And then you're going to see this land occupied by the Russians and the Chinese. America's going to fall. Babylon's going to fall. The system of things is going to fall. And if you're in the cities, you're going to be taken captive. Many of you are going to perish. But for those who have come to the place where they're walking in the love of God, God's going to preserve them. And they're the ones that's going to be raised up when Jesus comes at that last hour, the last trumpet, right? There's going to be a people that's going to be preserved into the coming of the Lord because they're walking in the Father's love. And that's where we need to go. But in order to get there, in order to get through that narrow gate, right? You got the narrow gate, and you got the path that leads to broad destruction, the ways of the world, the love of the world. For those who come to the place where we learn to love one another as ourselves, we're a candidate for the outpouring of the Father's love, so that the Father's love can abide in our hearts. And new churches in Abbotsford, in Vancouver, elsewhere, you better wake up, because judgment's at the door. God's about to shake you. God's about to shake the ground. You know, everything that can be shaken is going to be shaken right before a financial collapse. Once these payoffs are done with the dinar and things like that, there's going to be a banking crisis, and you're going to wake up. Same as the people woke up in 1929, where their bank accounts were empty. So all you rich Christians out there, you're not going to be rich for long. So you better spend your money and meet the needs of those that God puts on your heart, right? You need to learn to love one another as yourself. This is Joshua Taylor coming to you from here in Hope, British Columbia, Canada.